Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we will be discussing two forms of government, socialism and communism. Not only what stops them from functioning correctly, but also how countries which hold these forms of governments fare. Just like the last video I did discrediting evolution, I will be using an unbiased point of view, taking only the facts and drawing the conclusion based off of them. All of that aside, let's get into the discussion. As many of you may know, many people within a country which function under capitalism believe that the country would be better off under socialism. The definition of socialism is as follows. Socialism is a political and economic theory of social organization, which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned and regulated by the community as a whole. On the surface, this does seem very appealing. A nation where all things are shared among the whole country. Nobody's left out of the picture, and there would be no poverty. Everybody would be equal in wealth and state of life. However, one of the major issues stopping this from functioning as expected is the very nature under which humans operate. Whether you believe this nature originated from God who created us, or from the evolution taking place and our animal instincts being left over, the human nature shall never cease to exist, though it can be concealed or battled. The human nature I refer to is primarily the nature of self-preservation. In other words, selfishness. We as humans always want what is best for us, even at the expense of others. If a nation attempts to function under socialism, this is certainly a problem they would run into. If everyone received the same reward no matter the amount they worked, why would they want to work at all? This, paired with the second nature of humans that is easily recognizable, laziness, makes socialism impossible in the way we would hope. This is because, whether we like it or not, the only way the necessities of life are produced is through human labor. Even if 60% of the population of the nation were selfless and hardworking, they would still not produce enough resources to sustain the other 40% of the nation and themselves. Unless an entire nation is made up of selfless and hardworking people, then socialism cannot work. Furthermore, this is a quote from Karl Marx, the founder of the concept of communism as well as socialism. Socialism is a transitional social state between the overthrowing of capitalism and the realization of communism. Now, to put this into perspective, we must look back to Marx's history. Marx believed that capitalism, with its emphasis on profit and private ownership, led to the inequality among citizens. He believed all countries should become capitalist and develop the productive capacity, and the workers would naturally revolt, leading communism whereby the workers would become the dominant social class and collectively control the means of production. Thus, his goal was to encourage a system that promoted a classless society in which everyone shared the benefits of labor and the state government controlled all property and wealth. This again does not seem half bad. However, the means by which he intended it to happen is quite a different story. To put his words simply, he states that a country should start with capitalism only for the purpose of having the working class revolt and proceed to rule over the other classes. Not only would this fail to eliminate classes, but it would put the nation into chaos, because if the working class truly was oppressed by the upper class, who proceeded to become the lower class, then the working class would have the power to take revenge upon the previous upper class, which in turn would not only rain chaos across the nation, but also put far more oppressive, vengeful people in the position of leadership. This does not seem to make much sense on his part, and also does not exactly sound like the kind of peaceful community you would expect. According to Marx's theory of historical materialism, societies pass through 6 stages: primitive communism, slave society, feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and finally global stateless communism. Immediately, you must get the negative connotation from slave society as well as feudalism. For those of you who do not know what feudalism is, it is a form of government where a lord rules over a stretch of land which is known as a fief. This lord would have serfs, which were basically slaves. They were not allowed to leave the fief, and their only payment was food and shelter. If you were born a serf, you died a serf. It is also worth noting that even before his theories, Marx was not a man to be trusted with much responsibility. He left his wife and children to fend for themselves and he nearly went broke. Ironically, only surviving through a job his roommate worked in a capitalist country where they lived. Marx became the very thing he swore to destroy, a man sustained only by his worst enemy, capitalism. Knowing all this, would you trust a man that could not even support his own family, nor himself, to form a functioning government? Finally, we come to communism, which is quite similar to socialism. The main difference is that in communism, everything is controlled by the government rather than the people as a whole. It is easy to see this would be an issue, because if you have a corrupt government, there goes your freedom, necessities, and property. Yet another difference is that communism cannot exist with any form of religion. Karl Marx said that communist hatred of faith is a feature, not a fault. This means that not only do you lose your freedom to sustain your body, but also you are restricted to the beliefs that the government orders. Even if you are not a Christian, we still must at the very least consider, as it is said by Alex de Tocqueville, America is great because America is good. If America ever stops being good, it will stop being great. Even someone who is not even an American knew this. A lack of freedom of religion allows evil and immorality to run rampant as well as crime. This is what communism would impose upon any country it rules. Finally, I will be giving examples of what communism often results in. The first example is, of course, Russia, one of the most notoriously communist nations, starting with Vladimir Lenin, the first communist leader. Lenin's revolution, the resulting civil war and famine, and the brutal domestic repression that he led against the dissidents and scapegoats directly led to the deaths of over 8 million citizens of the Russian Empire, many by starvation, torture, or summary execution. Following his reign, Stalin was far worse. Prior to the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the archival revelations, some historians estimate that the number killed by Stalin's regime were 20 million or higher. Though Stalin's successor, Nikita Khrushchev, denounced Stalin, the one who succeeded Nikita, Leonid Brezhnev, caused Russia much hardship. Brezhnev's disregard for political reform ushered in an era of societal decline known as the Brezhnev stagnation. In addition to pervasive corruption and falling economic growth, this period was characterized by increasing technology gap between the Soviet Union and the United States. The second and final example is the obvious other candidate for the most notorious country in communism. This is China. It all started August 1st, 1927, when Mao Zedong, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, drove out Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the Republic of China. He and those who supported the Republic over communism were forced to retreat to Taiwan. The government during Mao's rule was also responsible for vast numbers of deaths, with estimates ranging from 40 to 80 million victims through starvation, persecution, prison labor, and mass execution. He was responsible for more than twice as many deaths as Stalin had been. Though his successor Deng Xiaoping slightly loosened the grip of communism, it was heavily reinstated when Hu Jintao became president. He tightened the grip of communism and all enterprises through the grasping claw of the state, not to mention the extreme amount of cheap child labor in China, another product of communism. In total, communist leaders are responsible for likely more than 100 million deaths, whether it be through starvation, torture, or even just mass slaughter. The conclusion that I have come to is that communism has never benefited a country, primarily due to the human nature, the lust for power, and the greed for wealth. Now, of course, based on the evidence I have found, you must decide for yourself as the viewer which is better, socialism, which leads to communism, or capitalism, where each person is rewarded for that which he has worked for. Thank you for joining the discussion over communism, socialism, and related subjects, and feel free to comment and share your opinions. That's all I have for you today. Again, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.